Welcome to Business Talk on Business Tech, South Africa's largest business news website, with me, Michael Avery. And we're taking a ride now with one of the country's newest ride-hailing contenders. It's recently entered the South African market, Didi. And I hope I got the name right. It's a new entry. It joins our existing favorites, Uber and Bolt. Didi is from China, where Uber and Bolt, which is formerly Taxify, also operate. We know Uber launched back in 2009, Bolt launched as Taxify in 2013, and Didi actually in 2012. So it was before Taxify, as far as I'm aware. Where Carina Smith-Allin is Didi's head of public relations and communications for Sub-Saharan Africa. So Carina, welcome. You'll correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe Didi has around 50 million active drivers globally. That's a figure I could get from March. Uber's got 4 million and Bolt 1.5 million. So Didi is actually the largest ride-hailing service in the world.
Yeah, totally correct. And thanks for that intro, because we've been on a ride and a half since we launched in South Africa. I can clearly state that. But yeah, you're quite correct. We are the biggest e-hailing platform globally. And that, of course, gives us immense, intelligence and teams to deal with and to support us in our new journey here.
Because as we know, that really is the underpin of all of this revolution that we've seen in ride-hailing and public transport, is the data that lies underneath it, and all of that data that you can collect with all of those users. What is Didi in a nutshell? How would you say you're different from the likes of Uber and Bolt?
Yeah, so as mentioned, we are the biggest e-hailing platform in the world. We really believe mobility should be accessible to everyone, and it should come safely, affordably, and efficiently. And we believe we do tick all those boxes. Obviously, the riders are welcome to give us feedback and try us out. But launching with the most safety features in the world, 14 safety features, really gives us that ability to differentiate ourselves. We really pride ourselves that safety comes first. So with male and female drivers, any age, any gender, safety comes first. That's the safety part. And then, of course, I think a big differentiator is the fact that we only charge a 13% service fee for our driver partners, which is the lowest in the industry. We've seen up to 25% in South Africa, which means that we also really stand for economic empowerment. So the driver should earn more, while the rider should have a safer trip. That's in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more to unpack, but I think it's a good nutshell. Often when I travel with my Uber drivers, that is a big gripe with Uber drivers, the fact that the platform takes such a significant piece of their margin. If you talk about your base now in South Africa, where are you currently based, and what sort of expansion plans do you have for the country? And is this kind of a regional hub and spoke expansion?
Yeah, so we obviously started off in Gqeberha, and then soon after that, that was in March. In May, we had a big launch in Cape Town. In Cape Town, we saw massive uptake on the platform, with our driver partners rating the Didi app. 57% of them rated the Didi app as the safest app in SA, while we know that most of them drive for all the ride-hailing platforms. We then launched on the 23rd of August in Gauteng, which included Pretoria, Ekurhuleni, and Johannesburg. And the same story. We saw a big uptake. It's quite clear that there's a need for mobility, and there's a need for safe mobility. I think when all of us travel, the first thing we look at is, will we be safe wherever we're traveling and whoever we're traveling with? So that's basically where we are at. With regards to expansion plans, I'm sure you would love to know it all, and I would love to share it all. But we have announced the driver registration opening in Durban. So, of course, people can just watch the channels, the social media channels, but drivers can register in Durban. And then after that, we're going to see where the journey takes us, but we have full expansion plans in place not only for South Africa, but for Africa.
And how many drivers do you currently have here in South Africa?
Yeah, so, we don't disclose the number, but we do have, I can confirm that we've got over 15,000 per city where we operate, and when I say per city, Gauteng, I categorize as one area because we actually launched in Gauteng as one launch. Right. And then Cape Town is one city.
Right. Now, you mentioned the commission fee at 13%, I think a very attractive proposition for the drivers. What's your value proposition for customers, apart from safety, which you've obviously mentioned, very important in the South African market? Have you decided to come in, maybe offer better prices and get market share now? What's your value proposition for passengers?
Yeah, so each city that we launch in, of course, we have a different pricing structure because of the needs and the customer behavior. But we believe that our pricing is very competitive. We have had great feedback so far. And of course, we continuously watch our competitors. That's important. Competition is great, is good. But it is important for us to ensure that we never become the most expensive e-hailing platform, because that's going to defeat the main aim, which is to be safe and affordable.
And considering that the 13% service fee, is that something that you are going to keep, or is it just something that you're entering the market with now?
Yeah, so at the moment there's no plan for us to increase that service fee. In fact, we are looking at launching a campaign or two where we will be lowering the service fees even further for some periods, during the campaign. So, yeah, no, definitely no future thinking of increasing the service fee.
Well, I'm going to be giving Didi a go then, because I've always felt, in order for the model to be sustainable, you really have to have a model that looks after the drivers. And that certainly sounds like one to me. Given the high incidence of crime, and I know you mentioned that you focused a lot on safety here, over 57% of your drivers rating Didi as the safest. How have you prepared your platform for the local market, considering that South Africa is a high crime country, to ensure both driver and rider safety?
Yeah, you know what? The Indra recording feature, we actually launched. It's the first country in our international business stable that we have launched the Indra recording feature. That's the one of the 14 safety features, which of course can be activated by driver or rider at any time during the trip. That's just an example.
And how does that work, Carina? So you've got Indra in-car recording. Is that like a little dash cam that's mounted? Is it recorded from the driver's cell phone? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's on the platform. So the rider or the driver can activate it at any point when they feel uncomfortable or they feel that this trip should be recorded. And they just activate it on their app.
It's a very user-friendly, that. And, that's just one of 14 features. What are some of the other features that make this one of the safest ride around?
Yeah, facial recognition. I'm just really going to mention a few. Facial recognition, important, because of course that is a safety feature that protects your safety even before you start booking the trip.
Yeah.
And for riders and driver. And just before I go into more detail with the rest, we often talk about safety for riders, but we forget that our drivers also need to feel safe and be safe. So it's really a dual, it goes both ways.
Absolutely.
And the app is really developed to protect the driver from the rider and the rider from the driver where needed. And then, of course, the fact that you can share your contact details and your trip with other contacts and friends. SOS button, 24/7 emergency support, which is important for female riders, specifically in this country. And then, like I said, facial recognition, Indra recording, all stuff that I think differentiates us
Absolutely. And speaking of male versus female drivers, can a rider choose if they want a male or a female driver on the app? I know some people just feel more comfortable if they're getting a driver of their choosing. How much user flexibility do they have in selecting who their driver should be?
Yeah, so currently we don't offer that feature. Obviously, we only just launched, in the country. But our teams are hard at work. And when we are ready, because if you request a female driver, we want the process to be seamlessly for the rider. And we are working on that, and we will announce it when we launch it, definitely.
Now, when it comes to communication, I've always found with the incumbents and the existing players in the market that getting dissatisfaction, voicing dissatisfaction, getting that sorted out, the channels to the platform sometimes can be a bit clunky. It's a great platform if you want to hail a cab, not such a great platform if you want to leave a complaint, for example. What sort of channels do you have in place for rider dissatisfaction?
Yeah, we do have cascading mechanisms. Obviously, we are active on all social media channels, but we really encourage, riders to go through the actual formal help, and support lines that's available on the app. We have a massive customer service department that is supporting teams globally. And so customer service is one of our main focus areas, because you cannot actually run an efficient e-hailing service that is actually focusing on safety, but you're not taking care of the customer service on the other hand. So that is something that we regard as very important. And we always ask customers, give us feedback, even if it's good feedback, even bad feedback, because that will help us improve.
Yeah, it's a South African tradition to only send bad feedback. We love sending brickbats, the bouquets, not so much. That's certainly what I found in my line of work. People love complaining on Twitter or email, but very reticent to say, well, good job. So go on, tell people when they've done a good job as well. What onboarding processes do you have for drivers? Is that all done through the app as well?
So we have a driver hub in each city where we operate. I'm actually, you might hear some noises today. I'm at the Cape Town driver hub because we are acknowledging our top 5 female and top 5 male drivers who helped us with the launch in Cape Town. They don't even know that they're going to be recognized today. So when they arrive here at 2 o'clock or later this afternoon, they will actually be quite surprised. Now, every city has a driver hub, and that is where the drivers come for the onboarding process. We have a lengthy process. We have complaints about it, but rather lengthy than, full of loopholes. So we try and ensure that the full set of documents that are required is in place. Unfortunately, if you don't have that, you are not able to drive on our platform. And that is not only in South Africa, that is globally, is the standard that we operate on. So in short, obviously your driver, public driver permit, your operator license, or at least a statement that, clarifies that you've got one, inspection of the car, third-party insurance, and then the normal checks, your criminal check, checking your ID versus your photo, etc. So there is quite a few cross-checking that happens to ensure that we actually keep our riders safe.
And it's quite something to hear that you're recognizing your top drivers as well, because I know there have been various disputes around the world just in the platform economy about how drivers are treated as contractors and not staff and that kind of thing. So very interesting that. I know Didi drivers, unlike their competitors, are able to see their destination before accepting a trip. It does also mean that they can cherry pick longer trips if they wanted to. How are you going to navigate the challenge that might pose for short trip riders?
Yeah, so picking trips, that's always part of the conversation, of course. But we do extensive training with our drivers, and we try and emphasize that whether you take a long trip or a few shorter trips, the low commission fee is really enabling you to earn more. So many shorter trips can make up one long trip. Drivers are allowed to, of course, decline or cancel a trip if the trip does not make sense to them, because they are entrepreneurs. So they are running their own business. And sometimes they might have a request where they need to take a rider into an unsafe area. And if the driver is not up to it, then, they have the right to actually decline or cancel the trip. And therefore, I always say there's so many reasons for canceling trips, that I know it frustrates riders, but they also need to remember that the driver also has, obviously, a side to the story.
Absolutely. And if you're going to be focusing on safety like you are, those are, I think, the understandable and willing trade-offs that one needs to make. Now, you did mention earlier the use of advanced AI safety features. Which of the safety features makes use of AI type tech?
Well, facial recognition to start off, for sure. And that obviously starts even before the trip is booked and confirmed. And we use that to really just do a risk assessment, if you can call it that, through AI to see rider, driver, can we go ahead? Should this trip be advisable? And that's just one of the features.
Well, Carina, I must say it's been fantastic taking our first trip with you on Didi. You were welcomed with open arms by the Premier of the Western Cape recently as well, and it's going to be great watching your growth in the South African and Sub-Saharan African region from our vantage point here at Business Talk on Business Tech. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for chatting to me today. It was lovely, and hopefully you will take that Didi ride. You will download the platform and you will actually start seeing the benefits.
I'm going to do that, and we're going to have you back on the show, and we'll talk about the experience as well. Carina Smith-Allin, Didi's Head of Public Relations and Communications for Sub-Saharan Africa.